Okay, hi, this is the webcast number 4. This is focusing on how to write a conclusion to a master's level essay. I haven't got any secret tips. I can't promise you the world, but I can tell you from my experience what characteristics a really good distinction level essay has when it comes to its conclusion. Now, just to go back to where we've come from with the previous webcasts, I started off by explaining what were the core characteristics of a distinction level MA essay. These were a high degree of analytical understanding, then some sort of critical engagement and showing that you're able to move beyond purely describing what's out there, but actually analysing and critiquing and showing your independent judgment. I also emphasise the need for a very clear, crisp structure, for a good standard of English, and to show a really important issue is showing that you're drawing upon a solid understanding of the wider literature. So, what does a good conclusion look like? Well, a bad conclusion is often very short. If the essay is 3,000, 3,500 words, I would expect at least 300 or 400 words to be on the conclusion. The conclusion is an opportunity for you really to look back and to reflect and to tease apart why your essay matters, and particularly to flag up what you've done which is particularly distinctive. It's far better for good students to try and do something different and get a really high mark than it is just to play safe and put something in which is very solid but maybe doesn't realise the student's full potential. So the conclusion you might think of it as having sort of two elements. Excuse me. Well, the first part of a conclusion, which is not enough on its own, is a sort of a reflective restatement of what the essay has all been about. So, in your conclusion, you might start by restating what was your core hook, what was your core question, how have you approached answering that question in terms of how did the essay go through in terms of structure, narrowing down and substantiating an argument in relation to that question. And you might then also return to fleshing out some of the reasons why that core hook, that core focus was distinctive. So that's the first part of a conclusion, is really reflecting on what you've done and how you've achieved it and why it mattered. Now, I think the potential for really lifting a conclusion in terms of higher marks and therefore lifting the overall standard of an essay is by dovetailing that reflective element of a conclusion with a broader, more ambitious understanding of how you can locate your hook within the broader literature. Now, what I mean by this is it's really good if you can sort of tease out why your specific hook relates to a number of broader issues and debates. So therefore you're showing that your knowledge is just not very, very focused on your key topic, but you also have a much broader maturity of knowledge that allows you to show why this matters in relation to a whole number of cognate debates. So, if you're doing this essay on earthquakes and risk regulation regimes, and I don't want, please, 30 essays on this topic, but you might say, okay, after doing the reflective element of your conclusion, you might say, this argument matters because it allows us to start understanding how the issue of governance and risk regulation regimes and natural disasters, how that matters vis-a-vis a number of broader debates within the field of governance and public policy. You might then seek to highlight 2 or 3 of these broader debates. So you might say, for example, a deeper understanding of the relationship between economic development and risk regulation regimes opens up new questions more generally about contingency planning and natural disasters. And you might explore that in just 1 or 2 paragraphs. Again, linking up your essay through a number of references to the broader literature. You might also say that the issue of risk regulation and natural disasters opens up a broader societal issue about the responsibilities of the state and the public's expectations about what politics can deliver. You might then relate that, for example, to something like John Keene's work on the life and death of democracy and the evolution of a monitory democracy based more around regulation than about the delivery of public services. Or you might say that your focus has provided you with a broader understanding of the tools of governance in the 21st century. It may well be that many of the ways that different countries have approached the issue of contingency planning for earthquakes isn't about the state actually doing anything directly different, but it might be about the way the state has tried to nudge people in terms of achieving behavioural change to take more responsibility for their own safety vis-a-vis earthquakes or natural disasters. So what I'm really getting at here is that a good conclusion doesn't just sort of narrow down, drill down and stop by focusing on its hook, but it then just maybe very gently locates the core question within a couple of broader themes and issues to tease apart and really show why that topic matters, why it's interesting, why it's fresh, why what you've done is of a very high standard, to show that you understand how your specific topic fits within a broader number of debates. Now, in a sense, the conclusion then should be framed around the question, so what? Why does this essay matter? And if you can't answer that question, then you're probably doing the wrong essay in the first place. But having gone through the structure of the essay, it's really important to make sure you understand the importance of the bibliography and the referencing. No matter how many times I say it, more and more essays come in and they're not consistent. In a way, the bibliography is very simple in terms of its structure. It's set out in the departmental handbook. One comprehensive bibliography, not a different bibliography for books, articles, book chapters, government documents, just one comprehensive bibliography, author, initial, date, title, place of publication, publisher, or title of the article, journal, volume, number, pages, no bullet points, no numbering, different entries. Make sure you get the italicization correct. Once you learn to do it, it's actually very simple. But if you don't do it, it can really cost you valuable marks, as can not referencing correctly. And the thing with the bibliography is, and I probably shouldn't tell you this, but very often, if I want to know if an essay is likely to be, if I see the title and I think, oh, that sounds really good, or, oh no, that sounds slightly strange, or really a hard piece of work, have they pulled it off? If I want to short circuit the system and get a good idea of whether it is a good essay or not, I can turn straight to the bibliography. If it's a long, detailed and clearly focused bibliography that contains pieces of work I've never heard of, then usually that's a good sign, and I think, wow, this student has really gone to a lot of work, done a lot of reading, and usually 9 times out of 10 that will really come through in the standard of the text. If I turn to the back, as I said in the first webcast, and there's only 4 or 5 references, and they're the ones I gave you in the seminar and went through with you, then it doesn't show to me that you've done a lot of independent reading or research on which to base your essay. And usually, again, that comes clear from the text. Good reading always shows. And that very neatly leads me to end this webcast number 4 and encourage you towards the final webcast number 5, where I'm going to just go through very briefly some key tips and honest advice, really, about how to maximise your marks. So that'll be webcast number 5. Okay. Bob.